Howdy everybody. In this video we're going to talk about why you might want to consider buying your own truck. So a lot of people are company drivers. A lot of truck drivers are company drivers. Very few are owner operators. But here's one of the reasons I wanted to buy my own truck was I knew I could be successful on my own. It's like I don't need a big brother. I don't need a nanny. Don't need the government. Don't need the company. It's like, all you people, get out of the way. You're just complicating things. It's if you ever worked for a organization or a company that had hiring practices or promotion practices that really weren't based on merit, for example, it's like, why didn't somebody get this job? I mean, they work hard. No, they give it to somebody else. That happens to everybody. But when you buy your own truck, you take ownership of your own fate, your own destiny. It's like, just clear the path. I don't want the company policies or the bureaucracy or the politics. It's like, if you just leave a person alone, they will succeed. You give them the tools, you give them the opportunity, give them a little bit of training, you send them on their way. Let them fly. They will do well on their own. A lot of times, you just got to get out of people's way. It's tough to do. A lot of people, it's like they want to put you in your place. They put you down. It's like you're not good enough for whatever reason in their mind to succeed. It's like, no, you need to get out of the way, because this person is coming through. So, if you give them an opportunity to succeed, they will succeed. But you have company policies or practices that limit opportunity. That's why people get discouraged. It's like no matter what they do, it's never right. No matter how hard they work, it's never hard enough. These organizations and corporations, often limit people to their true potential. Someone's true potential is really unlimited if they get out of the way. It's one of those things where you buy the truck, now it's your small business. It's totally up to you. You're the business owner. There's no one going to stand in your way. So there's no policy. There's no rules. I mean, you have to agree to your lease terms if you're leased on big box carriers, but no one's going to tell you you can't succeed. No one's going to deny you success. Whether you succeed or not is totally up to you. Because this is the ultimate freedom. It's like, you got a truck, you got the willpower, you're hungry for work, you're hungry for pay, you're hungry for success. You're going to do what it takes to succeed. It's all up to you. No one's going to stop you. No one's ever going to say you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not tough enough, you're not young enough, you're not old enough, you're not good enough. It's your money. You want to invest it in yourself. It's probably a good idea. Go buy your own truck and prove it. They say you're not good enough, prove it. Prove them wrong. You'd be far more successful as a small business owner than you could be in anywhere else. A lot of times when you look at people's careers and they're stuck in like middle management, they can't advance, they've reached the highest they're going to achieve, whether it's supervisor, manager, maybe a director, but they're not going to go any higher. For the organization isn't going to reward them for whatever reason. It's like they didn't go to the right college, they don't have the right degrees, they don't have the right military experience, or maybe they are a veteran and they don't like veterans, or vice versa. Maybe they like veterans, you're not a veteran. Maybe they have certain hiring preferences or promotion preferences, and all these excuses why you can't get promoted, why they won't allow you to reach your true potential. But if you have your own small business, all that BS goes right out the door. It's like you don't have to worry about my future and my career opportunities. I'll do it myself. I cannot rely on you people. If I'm going to wait on you to promote me, it's going to be a long wait. So I better just go start my own small business, and I'll promote myself. And then you'll have unlimited potential because it all depends on you. So you can invest in yourself, you can invest in your equipment, you can spend your time wisely, you can work hard for your money, and you can reach the highest levels you ever dreamed possible. Or you can stay as an employee and kind of be pigeonholed. They're like, this is where you belong, stay there, don't ever move. I don't know about you. That never agreed with me. I never agreed with that. Even when I worked in corporations and I would hire people, I wanted people to move up. Get better at that job. Prepare yourself for the next higher level. Keep moving up, keep getting better. But I've seen it over and over again. People were denied opportunity. They weren't going to be given an opportunity. They had the potential. They weren't going to be given the opportunity. So this is what trucking does for people. First you get your CDL. Then you get some driving experience. Save up your money. If you have the willpower, and the desire to be self-employed, and control your own destiny, then buy a truck and take it from there. It's like now no one's holding you back. Absolutely nobody's holding you back. You want to take time off, take time off. You want to travel a certain part of the country, go to that part of the country. You want to stay out and work 6 weeks at a time, you can do that. You want to save and invest your money, you can do that. You want to trade in your equipment, buy newer, better equipment because you think it's going to help your business, you can do that. You make all the decisions. You decide when the maintenance is going to get done. You decide what tires to put on your truck. You decide where you're going to get your oil changed. Maybe you're going to do it yourself. Things like this. You're in total control. Total control. No one's controlling you. You're in total control. And it makes a difference. It makes a big difference. It keeps a lot of guys motivated. It's like, yeah, that's my truck. This is my company. I have to agree whether or not to haul that load. If I don't want it, I don't haul it. If the weather's bad and I want to stay parked, I stay parked. If I want to run and I got the hours to do it, I'll run. If I want to take time off, I take time off. No one's going to tell me not to. So this to me is the ultimate freedom. I mean, you'll never work anywhere in the country and have this much freedom. If you're a farmer, you can never leave the farm, because you got too much equipment sitting around and you got animals to care for, crops to watch over. If you're a doctor, you got to be near your patients. If you work for an organization, you're probably working Monday through Friday. You can only go so far on the weekends, and you got to come back. A lot of times you're in a salary job, you're not getting paid overtime. You're working for free. They email you at home, send you text messages at home, things like this. And if you have your own small business, everything you do as a small business owner is for your benefit. It's going to help your small business. You're going to grow that business. This is something that you can nurture and develop over time. And it'll always be there for you. It's like you don't have to worry about changing company, changing careers, or any of that. You're a small business owner. So you know, even if you don't want to drive the truck anymore, you could always hire someone to drive your truck. That's another thing. If you want to hire people, you can do that. You don't have to be a single owner operator, although most guys are. But later in your career and you got money saved up, you want to buy 2, 3, 4, 5 trucks, you can do that, and then hire guys to drive your trucks. So this idea that you look at other careers and a lot of times people get fancy job titles like VP of something. A lot of times companies give them a fancy job title rather than give them a raise. They're like, we'll make you a director, we'll make you a vice president, but they won't give you the money. And you're like, oh wow, I got this fancy job title. Or they give you a nice office, but they won't give you the money. They'll give you a nice computer or a laptop so you can work from home, but they won't give you the money. So if you're looking for opportunities, you want people, just get out of the way. I will succeed if you just get out of the way. Just clear the path. It's just too many times people want to block you. They want to control your future. They want to block you. They're like, don't do that. We're going to step in your way. We're going to block you from being able to do something. And it's like, no, I'm bought my own truck. I'm a small business owner. There's nobody in the way. You cleared the path. So whether you succeed or not is now up to you. You're not going to have this corporate structure that rewards certain people for doing a bad job, punishes other people for doing a good job. Now you're in control. It's all up to you. So I've always found that no matter what I did in life, academics, military, being a truck driver, small business owner, if I have control, I will have unlimited success. But if I have organizational bureaucracy in the way, limited success, you're not going to reach your full potential. So if you feel that way about your company driving job, you may want to buy your own truck. If you're in a company right now and you don't have your CDL, you may want to go get your CDL. To me, of all the things I've done in life, having bought my own truck and being a small business owner has been the most freedom I've ever experienced in my entire life. It's totally awesome. I wouldn't trade it for anything. But it's all up to me. It's like whether I make a lot of money or I don't make a lot of money. It's how much effort I put into it. You're only going to get out of it based on how much effort you put in it. So if you don't put a lot of effort into it, you're not going to get a lot out of it. You put a lot of effort into it, you'll get a lot out of it. So this is one of those things that you have to work for. No one's going to hand you success. You're going to have to work for it. And I found that get out of the way, I'll work as hard as I possibly can, and I'll reach that level of success. But first, I got to get all this other stuff out of the way. And once I did that, it was pure freedom, absolute freedom. You travel anywhere in the country, you're making your own money, you're paying yourself, you're paying for your own benefits, you're taking time off for vacation, whenever you want to. You have a customized truck, and you work as hard as you want to work. Whereas if you're a company driver, you're under forced dispatch. You have to ask permission for everything. You have to ask for time off. You have to ask whether you can take a load or not take a load. You have to ask for any kind of special favors. You have your own small business, you don't ask. There's no asking here. You're telling the company what you're going to do. You tell them I'm going to take that load and I'm going to deliver it. You tell them I'm taking Monday and Tuesday off. I'll be back on Wednesday. You know, you're not asking, you're telling. It's a big difference, really big difference. So I would encourage anybody who's interested, you know, and having a small business, you know, it's a great time to do it. You know, these trucks are pretty good nowadays. Warranty is excellent, especially that Freightliner warranty. It's very hard to beat that Freightliner warranty. So you could do quite well. You get everybody out of the way. Just get out of the way. Leave me alone. I will succeed. All right, guys. That's all I got for you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the internet.